The atmosphere inside Kevin O'Sullivan's studio was far from ordinary. The cameras were still off, but the tension was already thick. Producers moved quickly behind the scenes, their whispers sharp, their eyes on monitors. This wasn't just another show, this was going to be watched across continents. Meghan Markle had entered the building. She sat in the guest chair dressed in muted gray, her posture calm but unreadable. Her fingers rested softly on the armrest, but her eyes sharp, alert, told another story. Across from her, Kevin O'Sullivan paced near his desk, sipping black coffee like it was fuel for war. He had built his reputation on provocation, and tonight was his arena. The lights went on. The theme music faded. The show was live. Kevin didn't waste time. "My guest tonight needs no introduction," he said, voice smooth but loaded. "She's accused the British press of cruelty, racism, and most recently being part of an institutional system designed to destroy her public image. The Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle." Meghan smiled politely. "Good evening." At first, Kevin kept the tone balanced, asking about her recent projects, her charity work, and the op-ed she had written in a major U.S. paper. Meghan answered with poise and clarity. Her words were well chosen, but her eyes never dropped their focus. Then Kevin leaned in. "You say the British press created a villain out of you," he said, casually flipping a pen between his fingers. "But isn't it also true that you've used your victimhood as a way to control the narrative?" There was a pause. Meghan didn't blink. "What you call controlling the narrative, I call surviving it." Kevin pressed harder. "But what if the truth is, the press isn't the enemy? Maybe you just don't like what they say." That line was rehearsed. It was made for a viral clip. Meghan tilted her head slightly. "The truth," she repeated. "The truth doesn't need headlines. And it certainly doesn't need people like you deciding which parts of it are convenient." A ripple moved through the audience. Kevin smirked, sensing a moment of television gold. "You've claimed coordinated attacks," he said, voice louder now. "Said the media worked hand in hand with institutions to ruin you. That's a bold accusation." Meghan's voice dropped, steady as stone. "Is it bold or just uncomfortable?" She leaned forward, now fully engaged. "You benefit from the same machinery that destroyed me. You know how it works. You've seen the briefings? You read the talking points? Before the camera rolls." Kevin's eyebrows lifted. "Excuse me?" Meghan's expression remained calm. "Your network received classified briefings, didn't it?" The studio froze. For 1 second, just one, the live feed stuttered. A flicker. Then it resumed. Kevin laughed awkwardly, but it didn't land. His team behind the glass scrambled. Producers looked at each other. They knew something wasn't right. "Are you suggesting," Kevin began, now on the defensive, "that we're part of some government media alliance?" Meghan didn't answer immediately. Her silence was louder than his question. "I'm saying that when someone becomes inconvenient, systems are activated. And you're one of those systems." The audience, silent moments before, now murmured. On Twitter, hashtags were already trending. Clips of the exchange would be clipped, reposted, dissected. Kevin tried to change direction, reaching for a printed quote from her article, but the air had shifted. This wasn't just a celebrity interview anymore. It felt like the start of something larger, something dangerous. Meghan adjusted her mic slightly, eyes still on him. "You invited me here thinking I'd play by the old rules," she said. "But those rules were never made to protect people like me." And with that, the camera zoomed in slightly, catching something unusual, a flicker in her eye, not of fear, but purpose. The war of words had just begun. The studio hadn't recovered from the last line Meghan delivered. Behind the scenes, the control room was a mess of frantic whispers. One producer had removed her headset. Another was scanning. The live feed lagged, trying to see if it had been a technical glitch or something worse. The word classified had triggered more than just social media. Kevin, who normally relished chaos, now looked unsettled. He flipped the next question card over, but his hand hesitated. Meghan hadn't flinched once. "Are you saying the press is being directed by intelligence agencies?" he asked, trying to laugh it off. But his voice cracked barely. "I'm saying," Meghan replied, .com, but sharper now, "that stories don't spread by accident. Neither do smears. Somebody decides who's useful and who's not." The room was so quiet, even the cameras seemed to pause. Kevin leaned forward. "You're claiming you were targeted." "Why?" "Because I disrupted the illusion," she answered. "I married into a system built on tradition, secrecy, and control. I asked questions. I told truths they hadn't approved." "You're not royalty anymore," Kevin shot back. "You're a private citizen. Why should anyone believe you?" She didn't miss a beat. "Because I have nothing to lose now." It wasn't defiance. It was a surrender to reality. One that had cost her relationships, peace, and safety. The audience, sensing the emotional shift, didn't clap or gasp. They simply stared. Kevin's producer suddenly spoke into his earpiece. He twitched, then spoke fast, almost cutting her off. "Let's move on," he said, grabbing the next cue card. "You've criticized the government's role in allowing racial bias in institutions, but do you have any actual evidence?" Meghan's voice dropped. "I was invited to official briefings. You know that? I sat in meetings with advisors who said one thing in private and another in public." "What advisors?" Kevin asked. She didn't answer. "What advisors, Meghan?" he repeated louder. "I told them," she said quietly, "that their silence would make them complicit. One of them told me, we don't protect people. We protect the institution." Kevin threw his card on the table. "That's not evidence. That's hearsay." Meghan finally looked away just for a second. Not out of guilt, but fatigue. "You don't want evidence," she said. "Want noise? You want me to break down or snap or run? But I'm still here." Kevin's tone sharpened. "No, what I want is transparency. You make accusations with no documents, no names, no files. You want to burn the house down and walk away like you didn't like the match?" Then came the line that cracked everything open. Meghan looked at him, voice trembling just slightly. "You already have the files. They're just marked sensitive, so no one reads them on air." There was movement behind the camera. One of Kevin's tech crew stood abruptly and whispered into a producer's ear. Something had changed again. Kevin blinked, caught off guard. "What files? You tell me," Meghan replied. In that moment, a graphic flashed on the screen, one that wasn't meant to go live. It was a government seal, a document header, and a redacted paragraph beneath it. It lasted less than half a second. Someone in the booth had either panicked or rebelled. Kevin stared at the screen, then at the control room. What the hell was that? Meghan sat back. "Looks like someone's tired of playing dumb." The producers were now in full crisis mode. Kevin got up from his chair and walked off screen for a moment. Meghan stayed seated, unshaken. And across the world, people had started recording, screenshotting, uploading a redacted document. A suspicious glitch, and a guest who had more to say. The interview wasn't over. The silence around her had just begun to scream. The clip of the redacted document flashing on screen had gone viral in under 4 minutes. #GlitchWarLeak trended across platforms. People slowed the video, paused it frame by frame, analyzing the seal, the font, the stamp that read Department of Communications and Intelligence Review, UK Home Office, and one line partially visible, ... subject, engaged with known media disruptors. Clearance revoked. Kevin O'Sullivan reappeared on camera 30 seconds later, clearly having received a phone call. He looked paler, sweat dotting the edge of his forehead. His tone was different, now not confrontational, but cautious. "We seem to have experienced a technical issue," he began, trying to force a laugh. "We'll clarify that document was not meant for broadcast and may not be authentic." Meghan said nothing at first. She looked directly into the camera instead of at him. "Tell them not to bother," she said softly. "They'll say it was fake or a prank or AI, but we both know what it was. And who authorized it?" Kevin leaned back in his chair, his rhythm thrown completely. "Are you accusing the government of surveillance? Of interfering with the press?" She tilted her head slightly. "Kevin, you're the press. Or are you? Pretending you don't know who owns your network." He stiffened. The question hit harder than it looked, because she was right. Behind the cameras, a stagehand got a quiet text and walked out. Another took off his headset and whispered, "She's not wrong." Kevin tried to recover. "You come here, throw around conspiracy theories, smear reputations, and hint at secret files, but you don't name anyone. No specifics. Why?" Meghan's expression turned serious. "It's because the people I would name ... don't sit in Parliament. They sit behind screens. They fund channels like yours. They call editors directly. They tell the palace when to stay quiet." She paused. "Do you think this is about a feud with a royal family? It never was. It's about an information war. I was just ... one of the early targets." Kevin's voice rose. "Then why didn't you say this before? Why now?" "I did," she replied. No one listened. They only heard what they were told to. Another silence fell. Then Meghan pulled a folded piece of paper from inside her jacket. It looked old-creased, faded, but intact. She placed it slowly on the table between them. Kevin stared at it. "What is that?" "You'll recognize the letterhead," she said. "MI5 internal. Dated 3 months before I left England." He didn't move. "If you're bluffing, I'm not," she interrupted. Kevin leaned forward. The camera zoomed in. The paper was marked. Preliminary analysis targeted media saturation and character disruption. The date, as Meghan said, was 3 months before she and Prince Harry had stepped back from royal duties. Her name was highlighted in the first paragraph. Says, "Prepare narrative reinforcement strategy." What does that mean? Kevin muttered, reading. "Exactly what it sounds like." Meghan replied, "A plan to discredit me in waves. Friendly media first, then tabloid storms. Plant one rumor, then amplify it with expert opinion. Leak personal stories. Twist. Then push the public to question every word I say, until nothing I say matters anymore." Kevin pushed the paper back. "That can't be real. Stamped. You tell me?" She picked it back up, tucked it away. "I'm not here to destroy anyone, Kevin. I'm here because I survived what was meant to erase me." He sat, in silence, unable to return to his usual rhythm. But behind the scenes, everything was accelerating. Messages were being sent, calls were being made. A senior government advisor in Whitehall reportedly canceled a public appearance. A known tabloid editor had locked down his social media. And 2 international journalists tweeted the same thing at the same time. She just confirmed what we've suspected for years. Outside the studio, a crowd had formed larger than when she arrived. Protest signs, supporters, drones overhead. Inside, Kevin finally looked into the camera and said the one thing that changed the tone entirely. "We're going to take a short break." But the network didn't cut to commercial. The screen went black, then static. People watching around. The world asked the same question at once. Was it an outage or a shutdown? The blackout lasted exactly 1 minute and 43 seconds. Long enough for millions to panic. Long enough for media watchdogs to start asking questions. Long enough for the studio's control room to get a call from someone who didn't give their name, but whose number traced back to Whitehall. When the broadcast resumed, Meghan Markle was no longer on screen. The studio camera was frozen on Kevin O'Sullivan, sitting alone in his chair, staring at the empty seat across from him. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between confusion and calculation. His tie was slightly loosened. Okay, his notes were gone. No closing segment. No music. Just Kevin. He cleared his throat. We, We're experiencing some technical difficulties. Our guest has stepped away for the time being. He gave a half smile that didn't reach his eyes. We'll provide updates soon. Then the network cut to an old interview from months ago, an irrelevant segment about rising energy prices. Viewers were furious. Social media caught fire. #Where'sMeGone began trending within minutes. Outside the studio, police barriers were being moved in. Unmarked black SUVs had pulled up to the alley behind the building. Reporters on the ground were told to stay behind a growing cordon. Something was happening inside and the public wasn't supposed to see it. Backstage, Meghan was surrounded not by security, but by two men in suits who hadn't entered through the front. One showed her a badge briefly. The other remained silent. "We need to speak with you privately, Duchess," the man said, his voice clipped precise. "There's been a concern raised by your possession of classified material." Meghan didn't flinch. "That concern didn't exist when it was being used against me." "This isn't about blame," the second man said, finally speaking. "It's about containment." "Containment," she repeated. "Of truth." Before they could respond, her lawyer Sasha Viteri, a sharp, composed woman who had worked in international human rights, lanterned through the side door. "We'll be going now," Sasha said calmly, "unless you're detaining her." The men didn't argue, but their eyes followed Meghan closely as she left through the back hall. In the car, Sasha turned to her. "They were already here before. The segment started. They knew you'd bring something." "I wanted them to know I wouldn't stay quiet anymore," Meghan said. "Not for them. Not for anyone." Sasha opened her laptop. "Then it's time we release the rest." Next morning, the world woke up to a digital storm. At exactly 7 a.m. GMT, 5 encrypted documents appeared online on a server based in Iceland, mirrored in Canada, and picked up by independent journalists across the globe. The files included a memo titled "Suggested Response Playbook," Markle Situation, communications between editors and political aides, surveillance reports involving not just Meghan, but her mother, payments logged from unnamed donors to tabloid media groups, a list of media amplifiers with network affiliations, and one line that lit up every headline around the world: "Narrative enforcement must remain deniable." By 8:30 a.m., the UK government issued a statement. "These materials appear fabricated and dangerous." By 9 a.m., 3 whistleblowers from within different agencies confirmed their authenticity. By noon, the Prime Minister's spokesperson canceled the daily press briefing. Back at Kevin O'Sullivan's network, executives scrambled. He was nowhere to be found. His show's webpage was blank. Comments were disabled. But Kevin wasn't hiding. At 1:07 p.m., he released a 2-minute vertical video from his phone. His face looked tired, shaken, no backdrop, no studio. "I didn't know what she was going to bring," he said. "I thought I was controlling the conversation, but I wasn't." He paused. "There are things I've seen now, things I can't ignore anymore. And if they're watching this, they know I'm not going to stay quiet either." He ended with one line: "It's not about Meghan anymore. It never was." And just like that, the storm wasn't just hers to carry. It had become everyone's. The storm was no longer digital. It had moved into the real world. By the following day, protests erupted in major cities: London, New York, Sydney, Cape Town. Some held signs reading "Narrative equals control." Others simply wore black tape over their mouths. The documents Meghan's team had released were dissected by legal analysts, privacy watchdogs, and investigative journalists. There was no denying their weight. The evidence painted a chilling picture, not just of media bias, but of state-aligned propaganda mechanisms disguised as entertainment. And now, Kevin O'Sullivan, once a proud mouthpiece of that machine, was missing. His phone had gone silent. His producers claimed they hadn't seen him since the morning of his video. His home was under surveillance by whom no one could say. Even Meghan's legal team had no clue where he'd gone. But someone else had found a lead. A journalist named Reza Qadri, who had spent years investigating media-military relations, received a tip from an encrypted email, coordinates, a timestamp, a single message. They're cleaning up what she uncovered. Kevin is next. Reza followed the trail to a warehouse just outside Manchester. It had once been used as a studio set, then abandoned. Now, according to the tip, it housed servers, tied to a narrative architecture division, a term that didn't officially exist in any public records. Inside, he found more than dust. There were computers still running, surveillance footage on looping screens, and one paused video showing Kevin being escorted into a black van hours. After his last message, Reza recorded everything. Then he found something else, something that made his hands tremble. A folder labeled PM Briefings Behavioral Optics Unit. Inside were documents detailing how news personalities had been coached, indirectly, on how to frame certain figures as racially. Meghan. There were emails discussing emotional pivot points to use during interviews. There were suggested talking points labeled approved by cultural framing team. But the most explosive document of all wasn't about Meghan, was about the Prime Minister. A memo marked top secret outlined a strategy to use media storms, like Meghan's, as cover for international trade deals involving controversial surveillance technologies. Distraction politics in its rawest form. Reza didn't publish immediately. He encrypted it, backed it up, and sent copies to 3 colleagues he trusted with his life. Then he called Meghan. Meghan was at a safe location guarded by private security. Her face was pale from fatigue, but her voice was steady. "Is it enough?" she asked Reza over the secure line. "It's more than enough," he replied. "But it means they'll escalate." Sasha leaned in. "They already are." Across the Atlantic, American networks began discrediting the leaks, calling them foreign interference, despite mounting evidence to the contrary. A coordinated campaign flooded social media with conspiracy theories, bots, and fake videos trying to frame Meghan as a destabilizing threat to public trust. Then something unexpected happened. A royal aide broke silence. Lady Rowena Ashcroft, an advisor to the late Queen, released a handwritten statement to several international outlets. In it, she confirmed that Meghan had been subjected to an unrelenting psychological operation to isolate her from both the public and the monarchy. She ended her letter with a line that echoed around the world: "If truth is treason, then perhaps we need better kings." The government panicked. They issued a warrant for Reza's arrest under the Official Secrets Act. Meghan's name was placed on an internal security watch list, but it was too late. That evening, a worldwide collective of journalists released a joint editorial titled, "This is not about Meghan Markle. This is about us." It read, "We have become part of something far more dangerous than bias. We have become tools. It is time we take our profession back. We stand with those who dare to speak when silence is safer." The impact was immediate. 3 major broadcasters paused live programming. The UN Human Rights Commission requested an independent investigation into psychological warfare practices in media. And a message appeared briefly on Kevin O'Sullivan's old Twitter account, just 6 words: "I'm still alive, not for long." It vanished seconds later, but the fire had already spread. And this time, it wasn't going out quietly. The world was no longer watching quietly. It was speaking loud, chaotic, and unfiltered. Hashtags like hashtag "Where's Kevin?", hashtag "Media is the weapon", and hashtag "We stand with Meghan" began trending globally. On the ground, things were heating up. British intelligence issued a vague national security alert. warning of coordinated disinformation campaigns targeting government institutions. But citizens weren't buying it, 'cause this time the evidence was too real, too raw. Then came the video. It leaked from an unknown source. A dark, grainy clip filmed on what looked like a body cam. Kevin O'Sullivan was seen in a small, concrete, rumen-shaven, eyes bloodshot, but speaking clearly. The timestamp read 2 days ago. "They tried to buy my silence," he said. "When I refused, they tried to erase me. But before they grabbed me, I gave everything to someone I trust. If you're watching this, you already know the truth." He paused, breathing heavily. "This isn't about Meghan. She was just the test. The media, us, we were weaponized. Against her, against anyone who didn't follow the line." The screen cut to black. Then, in white letters, "Check the servers in port in gray. Tell Reza." By dawn, Reza was gone too. Vanished from his flat in London. No signs of forced entry, no farewell message. Only his laptop left behind, up in the cursor blinking on an unfinished file titled "The Deep Broadcast." Meghan sat in silence. For a long time when she saw the clip, her phone buzzed constantly, but she ignored it. Sasha sat beside her, monitoring secure channels. Journalists from Italy, South Africa, and Brazil had reached out, offering platforms protection, even political asylum. But Meghan wasn't running. She stood slowly and said, "We don't just expose this, we interrupt it." Sasha narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean?" "Want to go back on air," Meghan said. "Live on a network they can't touch." That night, with help from a whistleblower inside an international press syndicate, Meghan secured an emergency broadcast. Slot through a private satellite link. It wasn't polished, it wasn't scripted, but it was real. At exactly 9 p.m. GMT across dozens of regions. Television screens flickered, interrupting scheduled programming with a simple title card, "Unedited, Unfiltered Meghan Markle Speaks." She appeared sitting in a bare studio with no makeup, no lighting crew, just a camera and a voice. "I never wanted to be the story," she began. "But the people trying to silence me made me one. So let's finish it." She walked viewers through what had happened. Not just to her, but to Kevin, to Reza, to every journalist caught between truth and survival. "They told you I was emotional, a diva, manipulator. They told you I was dangerous," she said. "But I wasn't the danger. I was just inconvenient." Then she looked straight into the camera. Her voice sharpened. "Tonight I'm releasing the last file Kevin gave me. It's a blueprinter. Media operations chart tied directly to government contracts. It names broadcasters, agents, funding sources. It names politicians, royals, executives." The screen behind her lit up with names, not speculation documents, bank transfers, briefing, memos, travelogues. Sasha's voice came through the earpiece. "Traffic spike just past 11 million. Meghan kept speaking, her hands shaking slightly. "I know what this means. I know what comes next. But I refuse to be quiet. Because silence is how they win." Across the world, people stopped. Bars, airports, homes, universities' eyes were glued to the screens. In real time, the machinery of deception was being taken apart. But not everyone was clapping. In a private war room beneath a government building, top intelligence officials watched the feed with clenched jaws. One of them leaned forward, eyes cold. "She's naming assets." Another nodded. "We can't pull the plug. Too many mirrors." "The backup streams are bouncing through independent nodes." "Then we do it the old way," someone said grimly. An alert flashed on Sasha's monitor. Unidentified vehicle approaching secure site. She turned to Meghan. "They're coming." Meghan didn't flinch. Then let them. 'Cause now it wasn't about just her anymore. It's the truth was out, and truth, once seen, doesn't go back to sleep. The sky outside was still black when the power cut out. Inside the broadcast studio, backup systems kicked in, keeping the satellite stream alive. The camera stayed on Meghan's face, her expression calm but unwavering. Sasha moved quickly, sealing the door, checking the uplink. The screens in front of her showed the feed still reaching millions across Europe, North America, Asia, and then a new alert. Multiple cyber attacks detected. Scrambling DNS, attempting to sever stream. Sasha whispered, "There, trying to shut you down." Meghan didn't look away from the camera. Let them try. Because the truth wasn't just out there anymore, it was multiplying. Kevin's files had already been downloaded in over 20 countries. Mirror links, open source repositories, whistleblower forums. Reza's documents, recovered from his abandoned laptop, contained footage of secret media briefings attended by intelligence officers. Reports marked domestic narrative strategy. Signed, stamped, real, and now Meghan had connected the final dots. How those strategies turned into headlines. How public fear was weaponized. How emotional stories were engineered, including her own. "They turned my grief into your entertainment," she said to the world. "But I'm not your story. This is your story. This is what they've done to all of us." The viewership crossed 22 million. Then came this sound. Heavy tires on gravel. A vehicle screeching to a halt. Sasha turned from the monitor. "They're here." Outside, 2 black SUVs rolled to a stop. No sirens, no uniforms. Just men in suits, stepping out fast, communication earpieces flickering. One of them carried a briefcase, the kind that didn't carry paper. Inside, Sasha hit the manual lock override. "They'll breach in 90 seconds. Meghan looked at the lens. "Then I'll use every one of them." She leaned forward. "This isn't the end of anything. It's the start. Don't wait for institutions to tell you what's real. Don't wait for someone like me to explain it to you. The files are out there. Read them, share them, organize." She looked off camera for a second, her voice softer now. "And if you never see me again, it means they were more afraid of truth than of lies." The live feed held. Then static, a brief glitch. Cameras cut for 2 seconds, then returned to a frozen frame of Meghan looking directly into the lens. No sound, number, movement. In millions of homes around the world, people sat frozen too. On the screen, a red banner appeared. Signal lost. Emergency interrupt. And then nothing. Just silence. The world exploded. Online platforms crashed. Message boards swarmed with theories. Was Meghan arrested? Was she hurt? Was she alive? Official sources released nothing. The government said it was a technical malfunction. Buckingham Palace issued a one-line statement. No comment. A spokesperson for Kevin's network denied involvement, claiming they were not informed of the broadcast in advance. But leaked footage from a nearby traffic camera told a different story. It showed the black SUVs leaving the scene quickly in silence. No sirens, no one resisting. And then another shock. A live stream appeared from an anonymous server. A grainy, low-resolution video. It was Meghan. Same studio, same clothes, but different tone. She wasn't delivering a message. She was listening. Around her were 5 other people, activists, whistleblowers, journalists. They were reading the documents, aloud, one by one, line by line, as if continuing the broadcast not as a show, but as testimony. They called it the continuation room, and by morning its viewership was in the tens of millions. The files had been divided. Released across decentralized platforms, student groups translated them into multiple languages. Independent broadcasters replayed segments in loops. Even retired intelligence officers began writing op-eds, some in fear, some in solidarity. No government could stop it, because it wasn't one voice anymore. It was a movement. Inside a quiet government building in Brussels, an emergency meeting of the European Council was convened. One delegate from Norway said the genie is out of the bottle. Denial will only radicalize the public more. A delegate from France replied coldly, "Then what do you propose? We let a duchess rewrite geopolitical alliances." "She didn't rewrite them," the Norwegian said. "She just read the footnotes." Back in London, a memorial appeared outside the studio where Meghan had broadcast her final message: flowers, candles, notes that read, "Thank you for telling the truth." No one could confirm where she was. Some claimed she was flown to Iceland under UN protection. Others believed she'd gone underground with whistleblowers. Few said she'd been disappeared. But then something strange happened. A letter arrived at the headquarters of a major news agency. No return address, no fingerprints. It's just one sentence typed on paper. "Truth doesn't need a face, it just needs witnesses." And on the bottom, handwritten, Emmy year. Later, the media landscape was different. Independent outlets had surged. Citizen journalism was thriving. Governments faced stronger oversight. And while many still denied the events, the people hadn't forgotten. University students still quoted Meghan's final words. And in classrooms, her name wasn't used as gossip. It was studied like a case file. The Duchess who stood before power and refused to flinch.